She stood in the courtroom, silent, humiliated. Her hands trembled over her stomach. 8 months pregnant with twins. He had already decided she was a liar, a cheater, worthless. The entire room watched as he destroyed her in front of everyone. His voice was ice. His eyes, dead. He wanted her gone. But then the judge read the DNA results aloud, and everything he believed, shattered. The twins were his. They had always been his. Now he's standing in the hallway, paralyzed, and she's walking away, forever. The courtroom was suffocating. Min-jae sat at the plaintiff's table, his hands folded calmly in front of him. His suit was immaculate, his jaw set. His eyes, those cold, merciless eyes, hadn't looked at her once since the hearing began. Not once. Seo-yoon sat across from him, 8 months pregnant, her belly swollen with twins she'd begged him to believe were his. Her lawyer had stopped trying to comfort her 20 minutes ago. There was no comfort left. The judge shuffled papers, adjusting his glasses. "Mr. Kang," the judge said, his tone clipped, "you've requested this DNA test as evidence to support your petition for annulment and full termination of marital obligations. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." Min-jae's voice was smooth, detached, like he was ordering coffee, not ending a marriage. Seo-yoon's hands trembled in her lap. The judge opened the envelope. The room went silent. Seo-yoon felt her chest tighten. She knew what was coming. She'd known all along. But Min-jae didn't believe her. He had never believed her. "The DNA test," the judge began, "indicates a 99% probability of paternity. Mr. Kang, the twins Mrs. Kang is carrying are biologically yours." Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. Seo-yoon's breath hitched. Her eyes burned, but no tears came. She'd cried too much already. Min-jae didn't move. He didn't blink. He just sat there, staring at the judge like the words hadn't registered. "Your Honor," his lawyer stood, fumbling. "We weren't. This was unexpected. The results are conclusive," the judge interrupted, his tone sharp. "Mr. Kang, you publicly accused your wife of infidelity and sought to divorce her on those grounds. The evidence does not support your claim." Min-jae's jaw clenched. Seo-yoon watched him from across the room. She saw the flicker of something in his eyes. Shock, maybe. Confusion. But not regret. Never regret. The judge addressed her directly. "Mrs. Kang, given the circumstances, the court will grant you the option to proceed with the divorce if you wish, with full financial support and custody arrangements in your favor." Seo-yoon's voice was barely a whisper. "I want the divorce." Min-jae's head snapped toward her. For the first time that day, he looked at her. Really looked at her. And she saw it. The realization. The horror. The dawning understanding that he had been wrong. But it was too late. She stood slowly, her lawyer helping her to her feet. Her belly was heavy. Her body ached. But her decision was final. "I want the divorce," she repeated, louder this time. "And I want him to stay away from me and my children." Min-jae stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Seo-yoon, don't." Her voice cracked, but she held his gaze. "You made your choice. You humiliated me. You called me a liar in front of everyone. You were ready to throw me away. I didn't know. You didn't want to know." Her voice was steel now. "You wanted an excuse. And you got one. But it wasn't real. And now I'm done." She turned and walked out of the courtroom. Min-jae stood frozen, his hands clenched into fists. Behind him, his associates murmured. Whispers spread through the gallery. The mafia boss who had destroyed his own wife, and lost everything because of it. Min-jae didn't go back to the compound. He sat in his car outside the courthouse for 2 hours, staring at nothing. His phone buzzed incessantly. His men, his lawyer, his father. He ignored them all. The DNA test sat on the passenger seat. 99% probability of paternity. The twins were his. He had spent months convincing himself she'd betrayed him. Months building a case in his mind. She'd been distant, exhausted, emotionally unavailable, and when she told him she was pregnant, he'd looked at her and felt nothing. No joy, no excitement, just suspicion, because he couldn't remember the last time they'd been together. Couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled at him. Couldn't remember when everything had started to fall apart. So he'd assumed the worst, and he'd destroyed her for it. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. What? It was Jun-ho, his second in command. "Boss, we need you back. There's a situation with the Busan crew. Handle it." "But I said handle it." Min-jae's voice was flat, dead, silence on the other end. "Min-jae," Jun-ho's tone softened. "Are you okay?" Min-jae laughed bitterly. "No." He hung up. He drove. He didn't know where he was going until he pulled up outside the small apartment Seo Yoon had moved into 3 months ago, after he'd thrown her out of their penthouse. The lights were off. She wasn't home. Or maybe she was inside, hiding from him. He sat in the car, staring at the dark windows. What the hell was he supposed to do now? He'd been so sure, so certain she'd betrayed him. And now, he was the monster. His phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. She's at the hospital. Complications with the pregnancy. Thought you should know. Dr. Han. Min-jae's blood turned to ice. He slammed the car into drive and sped toward the hospital. The hospital corridor was sterile, cold, silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Min-jae pushed through the double doors, his heart pounding. A nurse stopped him. "Sir, you can't—" "Where is she?" His voice was sharp, dangerous. The nurse hesitated, recognizing him. Everyone in Seoul knew who Min-jae was. "Room 304, she said quietly. "But she's resting." The doctor said. Min-jae didn't wait. He walked down the hall, his footsteps echoing. Room 304. He stopped outside the door. Through the small window he could see her. Seo Yoon was lying in the hospital bed, her face pale, her eyes closed. An IV drip was attached to her arm. Her hands rested protectively over her belly. She looked so small, so fragile. Min-jae's chest tightened. He pushed the door open. Seo Yoon's eyes snapped open. When she saw him, her entire body tensed. "Get out!" Her voice was hoarse, broken, but firm. Min-jae stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I heard you were—" "I said get out." She sat up slowly, wincing. "You have no right to be here. They're my children. Now they're your children?" Her voice cracked with fury. "After you spent months telling everyone they weren't? After you dragged me into court and humiliated me in front of the entire city?" Min-jae's jaw clenched. "I was wrong. You think that changes anything?" Tears streamed down her face. "You think saying I was wrong erases what you did to me? I didn't know. You didn't care." She was sobbing now, her hands shaking. "You didn't want to know. You wanted me gone. You wanted an excuse to throw me away. And you found one. It just wasn't real." Min-jae took a step closer. "Seo Yoon, don't." She held up a trembling hand. "Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't pretend you care now. I do care. You destroyed me." Her voice broke completely. "You killed every part of me that loved you. And now you want to walk back in here like nothing happened?" Min-jae's hands clenched into fists. The door opened. Dr. Han stepped inside, his expression grim. "Mr. Kang, I need to speak with you." Min-jae turned sharply. "What's wrong?" Dr. Han glanced at Seo Yoon, then back at Min-jae. "She's experiencing preterm labor. The stress from the court proceedings has put her and the babies at risk. If we can't stop the contractions, we may need to deliver early." Min-jae's stomach dropped. "How early?" 32 weeks. The twins would need intensive care. "There are risks. Do whatever it takes," Min-jae said immediately. "I don't care what it costs." Dr. Han nodded. "We're doing everything we can." He left. Min-jae turned back to Seo Yoon. She was staring at him with so much pain in her eyes, it felt like a knife to his chest. "You did this," she whispered. "You did this to us." Min-jae opened his mouth to respond, but no words came, because she was right. He had done this, and there was no taking it back. The hospital room was suffocating in its stillness. Seo Yoon had been moved to the intensive care maternity ward. The contractions had slowed, but not stopped. Dr. Han had administered medication to delay labor, but he'd made it clear, if the contractions didn't stop completely within the next 48 hours, they'd have to deliver the twins at 32 weeks. Too early, too dangerous. Min-jae hadn't left the hospital in 3 days. He'd set up a makeshift office in the waiting room down the hall. His men brought him files, reports, updates on territory disputes and shipments. He signed off on everything mechanically, his mind elsewhere. Junho had tried to convince him to go home. "Boss, you need rest. You're no good to anyone like this." Min-jae had looked at him with hollow eyes. "I'm not leaving. She doesn't want you here." "I know." That was the worst part. Seo Yoon had made it perfectly clear. Every time he tried to enter her room, she turned her face away. Every time he spoke, she closed her eyes and pretended he didn't exist. The nurses had stopped asking him to leave. They'd seen the look in his eyes, the desperation of a man who knew he'd destroyed everything and was powerless to fix it. On the third night, Min-jae sat in the hallway outside her room, his back against the wall, his head in his hands. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. He just existed. In this liminal space between the man he'd been and the wreckage of what he'd become. Footsteps approached. Min-jae looked up. It was Dr. Han, carrying a clipboard, his expression unreadable. The contractions have stopped, Dr. Han said quietly. For now. But she needs complete bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. No stress. No emotional upheaval. Nothing that could trigger labor again. Min-jae exhaled slowly. Thank you. Dr. Han studied him for a long moment. Mr. Kang, I've been Seo-yoon's doctor for the past 6 months. I've seen what this pregnancy has done to her. And I've seen what you've done to her. Min-jae's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. She came to me 3 months ago, Dr. Han continued, his voice low. She was barely eating, barely sleeping. She was having panic attacks so severe I thought she might miscarry. Do you know what she told me? Min-jae didn't answer. She said her husband had thrown her out, that he'd accused her of cheating, that he'd told her the children she was carrying weren't his, that he'd looked at her with such hatred. She wanted to die. The words hit Min-jae like physical blows. I asked her why she didn't tell you the truth, Dr. Han said. Why she didn't force you to take the DNA test sooner. Do you know what she said? Min-jae's voice was barely audible. What? She said. If he doesn't believe me when I tell him the truth, then he never loved me at all. And I'd rather raise these children alone than beg a man to believe I'm not a liar. Min-jae closed his eyes. Dr. Han crouched down so they were at eye level. You destroyed her, Mr. Kang. You took a woman who loved you completely, and you tore her apart. And now you're sitting here in this hallway like a wounded animal, waiting for her to forgive you. I know, Min-jae whispered. She won't. I know. Dr. Han stood. The question is, what are you going to do about it? He walked away, leaving Min-jae alone in the hallway. Min-jae sat there for another hour, staring at the floor. His phone buzzed. A text from his father. Come home. We need to talk. Min-jae ignored it. Another buzz. This time from Junho. Boss, there's a problem. Park's crew is moving in on the eastern docks. They're saying you're weak, that you've lost control. Min-jae stared at the message. 3 months ago, he would have responded immediately, would have mobilized his men, made an example of Park, reminded everyone in Seoul why they feared the Kang family. But now he couldn't bring himself to care. What did it matter if he lost territory? If he lost respect? If the entire organization crumbled? He'd already lost the only thing that mattered. He'd lost her. Another buzz. This time, an unknown number. You don't deserve her, but she deserves to know the truth. Check your email. A friend. Min-jae frowned. He opened his email. One new message. No sender name. Just an attachment. A video file. Min-jae's heart began to pound. He clicked play. The video was grainy, clearly taken from a security camera. The timestamp read, 6 months ago. The location, the Kang family estate. Min-jae watched as the camera showed the front gate opening. A car pulled through. His car. But he wasn't driving. Someone else was. A woman. Min-jae's blood ran cold. Lee Hye-jin, his father's personal assistant. The woman who'd worked for the family for 5 years. The woman who'd always been too attentive, too available, too eager to please. The video continued. Hye-jin got out of the car, smoothing her skirt. She walked toward the main house, glancing around to make sure no one was watching. Then she entered through the side door. The camera angle switched. Interior hallway. Hye-jin walked down the corridor, stopping outside Min-jae's private office. She pulled out a key, his key, and unlocked the door. The video cut again. Now it showed Hye-jin inside his office, sitting at his desk. She opened his laptop, typed in his password. How the hell did she know his password? She pulled up his email, his messages, his calendar. And then she started typing. Min-jae's hands shook as he watched. She was sending emails, from his account, to people he did business with, to his associates, to... His stomach dropped. To Seo-yoon. The video zoomed in on the screen. An email from Min-jae's account to Seo-yoon, sent 6 months ago. I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think I love you the way I should. I need space. Don't wait up. Min-jae's breath caught. He'd never sent that email, but Seo-yoon had received it. He remembered that night. He'd come home late, exhausted, and Seo-yoon had been in their bedroom, crying. She'd shown him the email, asked him if it was true. He'd barely looked at it. He'd been so tired, so stressed. He'd just assumed he'd sent it in a moment of frustration and forgotten. He'd told her, I don't know, maybe. I don't remember. Does it matter? And she'd looked at him like he'd stabbed her. The video continued. More emails, more messages, all sent from his account, all designed to create distance, to plant doubt, to make Seo-yoon feel unwanted, unloved. And then, 3 months ago, An email from Min Jae's account to his lawyer. I need you to start preparing divorce papers. I have reason to believe my wife has been unfaithful. I want a DNA test ordered for the children she's carrying. I don't think they're mine. Min Jae's vision blurred. He'd never sent that email either, but his lawyer had received it, had acted on it, had started the entire legal process that led to the courtroom, to the humiliation, to the destruction of everything. The video ended. Min Jae sat frozen, the phone trembling in his hand. Someone had sabotaged his marriage.
Before you continue, if this story touched something in you, you should know this is only the beginning. The complete version includes 30 full audio stories, more than 30 hours of uninterrupted listening. No ads, no cuts, no distractions. Scan the QR code on your screen, or tap the link in the pinned comment to continue listening right now.
Someone had deliberately destroyed his relationship with Seo Yoon, and he'd been too blind, too arrogant, too consumed with his own suspicions to see it. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Hyejin has been in love with you for years. Your father knew. He encouraged it. He wanted Seo Yoon gone. He wanted you to marry someone from a better family, someone who could benefit the organization. Seo Yoon was just a kindergarten teacher. She was worthless to him, so he had Hyejin get rid of her. And you helped them do it. A friend. Min Jae's hands clenched into fists. Rage flooded through him. Pure, blinding rage. He stood abruptly, his chair clattering to the floor. He dialed Junho. Bring the car. Now. Boss. Now. He hung up. He looked at the door to Seo Yoon's room. He wanted to go in there, wanted to tell her everything, wanted to show her the video, explain what had happened, beg for her forgiveness. But he couldn't. Not yet. First, he had to deal with the people who'd done this. And when he was done, there wouldn't be anything left of them. The Kang family estate was a fortress. High walls, armed guards, surveillance cameras at every corner. Min Jae drove through the gates at 2 a.m., his face a mask of cold fury. Junho sat in the passenger seat, silent. He'd learned long ago not to question Min Jae when he had that look in his eyes. The car stopped in front of the main house. Min Jae got out, slamming the door behind him. He walked inside without knocking. The house was dark, but he knew exactly where to go. His father's study. He pushed the door open. Kang Tae-sung sat behind his mahogany desk, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He didn't look surprised to see his son. Min Jae. His voice was calm, measured. I wondered when you'd come. Min Jae closed the door behind him. You knew? It wasn't a question. Tae-sung took a sip of his whiskey. I knew what? Don't. Min Jae's voice was lethal. Don't play games with me. I have the video. I know what Hyejin did, and I know you told her to do it. Tae-sung set his glass down slowly. I see. That's all you have to say? Min Jae's voice rose. I see? What do you want me to say? Tae-sung leaned back in his chair. That I'm sorry? That I regret it? Yes. I don't. The words hung in the air like poison. Min Jae stared at his father, his chest heaving. You destroyed my marriage. You destroyed my wife. You made me believe she was a liar, a cheater. You turned me into a monster. I did what was necessary, Tae-sung said coldly. Seo Yoon was a weakness, a distraction. She had no connections, no family worth aligning with, no value to this organization. You were blinded by sentiment, by love. He said the word like it was a disease. I needed you to see clearly, to see that she was beneath you. She was everything to me. She was nothing. Tae-sung stood, his voice hardening. And you were becoming nothing because of her. You were soft, distracted, weak. I had to remind you who you are, what you are. Min Jae's hands clenched into fists. I am your son, not your puppet. You are the heir to this organization. And that means you don't get to choose love over power. You don't get to choose a school teacher over an empire. So you had Hyejin send fake emails, plant doubt, destroy my marriage from the inside. I gave you the truth, Tae-sung said. That woman was never strong enough for this life. She would have broken eventually. I simply accelerated the process. She was pregnant with my children. And now those children will be raised by a father who is free to lead this organization without distractions. Tae-sung poured himself another drink. You should be thanking me. Min Jae moved before he could think. He grabbed his father by the collar, slamming him against the bookshelf. Books tumbled to the floor. You're a fucking coward, Min Jae snarled. You couldn't control me, so you destroyed the only person I loved. You manipulated me, lied to me, turned me into the monster who stood in that courtroom, and humiliated my pregnant wife in front of the entire city. Tae-sung didn't flinch. Yes, I did, and I'd do it again. Min-jae's grip tightened. Why? Because you're mine, Min-jae. You belong to this family, to this organization, not to her. And if I have to burn down your entire life to remind you of that, then so be it. Min-jae let go, stepping back. He felt sick. Tae-sung straightened his collar, his expression unchanged. You're angry now, but you'll see. In time, you'll understand that I did what any father would do. I protected you. You destroyed me. I saved you. Tae-sung sat back down. Now, are you going to kill me? Is that why you're here? Min-jae stared at him. For a moment, he genuinely considered it. But then he thought of Seo-yoon, of the twins growing inside her, of the life he'd destroyed. Killing his father wouldn't fix any of it. No, Min-jae said quietly. I'm not going to kill you. Tae-sung smiled. Good. Then, I'm going to take everything from you. Min-jae's voice was ice. Every territory, every connection, every ounce of power you have, I'm going to dismantle your legacy piece by piece. And when I'm done, you'll have nothing. You'll be nothing. Tae-sung's smile faltered. You wanted me to be strong? Min-jae continued. You wanted me to be ruthless? Congratulations. You got what you wished for. He turned and walked toward the door. Min-jae, we're done, Min-jae said without looking back. Don't contact me again. Don't come near my wife. Don't come near my children. If I see you, if I hear your name, if you so much as breathe in our direction, I will end you, father or not. He left. The door slammed behind him. Tae-sung sat alone in his study, staring at the closed door. For the first time in 30 years, he felt something he'd never felt before. Fear. Min-jae found Hyejin in her apartment at 3 a.m. She opened the door, still half asleep, wearing a silk robe. When she saw him, her face lit up. Min-jae, He pushed past her into the apartment. We need to talk, he said coldly. Hyejin closed the door, her smile fading. About what? Min-jae pulled out his phone, held up the video. About this. Her face went pale. I can explain. Don't. His voice was dead. I know what you did. I know my father put you up to it. I know you sent those emails, planted those doubts, destroyed my marriage. Hyejin's hands trembled. Min-jae, please. I did it because I love you. I've always loved you. And she wasn't right for you. She didn't understand you. Didn't understand this life. I just wanted... You wanted me to yourself, Min-jae finished. So you sabotaged my relationship, made me believe my wife was unfaithful, turned me into a man who humiliated his pregnant wife in public. I didn't think... No, you didn't. Min-jae stepped closer. You didn't think about what it would do to her, to me, to my children. You just wanted what you wanted, and you didn't care who you destroyed to get it. Tears streamed down Hyejin's face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I've always loved you. I don't care. The words were brutal. Final. Hyejin collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Min-jae looked at her with something close to pity, but not quite. You're fired, he said quietly. Pack your things. Leave Seoul. If I ever see you again, I won't be responsible for what happens. Min-jae, go. He left her sobbing in her apartment and walked out into the night. When Min-jae returned to the hospital, it was nearly dawn. He was exhausted, hollowed out, but there was one more thing he had to do. He walked to Seo-yoon's room. She was awake, staring out the window, her hand resting on her belly. She didn't look at him when he entered. Seo-yoon, he said quietly. I told you to leave. I know, but I need to tell you something. And then I'll go, if that's what you want. She turned her head slightly, just enough to see him. What? Min-jae sat down in the chair by her bed, and he told her everything. The emails, the video, Hyejin, his father, all of it. When he finished, Seo-yoon was silent. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't make a sound. I'm sorry, Min-jae whispered. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have trusted you. I should have... It doesn't matter, Seo-yoon said, her voice hollow. It doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change what you did to me. I know. You looked at me in that courtroom, she continued, her voice breaking. You looked at me like I was nothing, like I was trash, and I felt like I was dying. I know. And now you're telling me it was all a lie, that someone manipulated you, that you were a victim too. She laughed bitterly. But you weren't, Min-jae. You chose to believe the worst about me. You chose to throw me away. No one forced you to do that. Min-jae's chest tightened. You're right. So what do you want from me? Seo-yoon looked at him finally, her eyes red and swollen. Forgiveness? Absolution? Do you want me to tell you it's okay? That we can fix this? No, Min-jae said quietly. I just wanted you to know the truth. You deserved that much. Seo-yoon closed her eyes, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Get out, she whispered. Min-jae stood. He walked to the door, and then he stopped. I love you, he said, his back still turned. I know that doesn't mean anything now. I know I destroyed that, but I need you to know. I have always loved you, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to make this right, even if you never forgive me, even if you never let me near you again. I will make this right. He left. Seo-yoon sat alone in her hospital bed, her hands pressed against her belly, feeling her twins kick, and she cried until she had no tears left. 3 weeks later, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Seo-yoon sat on the small couch in her living room, folding tiny onesies with methodical precision. Each fold was exact, perfect, because if she could control this, these small, soft pieces of fabric, then maybe she could pretend she had control over everything else. The apartment Min-jae's lawyer had arranged for her was modest, clean, safe, a 2-bedroom in a secure building in Gangnam, far enough from the Kang compound that she could breathe, but close enough that his men could watch her. And they did watch her. She saw them. The black sedans parked across the street. The men in suits who pretended to read newspapers in the lobby. The security cameras that had appeared on her floor the day after she moved in. Min-jae had promised to stay away, but he'd never promised to leave her unprotected. Seo-yoon hated it. Hated knowing that even now, even after everything, she was still trapped in his world. Still under his control, in some twisted way. But she also knew why the guards were there. Because Min-jae had enemies, powerful enemies. And now that he'd publicly dismantled his father's network, removed Taesung from power, and restructured the entire organization, those enemies were circling. And Seo-yoon, whether she liked it or not, was a target, because she was carrying his children, the heirs to the Kang Empire, even if she wanted nothing to do with that empire, even if she planned to raise her babies far away from the violence and corruption that had destroyed her marriage. The world didn't care what she wanted. The world only saw her as Min-jae's weakness. Seo-yoon placed another folded onesie on the stack, yellow with tiny ducks printed on it, and reached for the next one. Her hands trembled slightly. She was 7 months pregnant now. Her belly was enormous. The twins kicked constantly, reminding her they were running out of room. Doctor. Han had told her that twins often came early, but that she needed to make it to at least 35 weeks for them to be safe. She had 8 more weeks to go. 8 more weeks of this liminal existence. This waiting. This constant gnawing anxiety that something would go wrong. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling one of the twins. Baby A, Doctor. Han called them. Kick against her palm. I know, she whispered. I know you're uncomfortable. Just a little longer, okay? Just hold on a little longer. Baby B shifted, pressing against her ribs. Seo-yoon winced. Everything hurt now. Her back ached constantly. Her feet were swollen. She couldn't sleep for more than 2 hours at a time before one of the babies decided to use her bladder as a trampoline. But she didn't complain. Because these babies, these 2 tiny lives growing inside her, were the only good thing that had come from her marriage, the only pure thing, and she would endure anything to keep them safe. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from Ji-woo, her best friend. How are you feeling today? Need anything? Seo-yoon smiled faintly. Ji-woo had been her lifeline these past few weeks, bringing groceries, keeping her company, distracting her from the spiral of thoughts that threatened to consume her every time she was alone. She typed back, I'm okay, just folding baby clothes. Very exciting life I'm living. Ji-woo's response came immediately. You're growing 2 humans. That's pretty badass. Want me to come over? I can bring ice cream and we can watch terrible reality TV. Seo-yoon hesitated. She wanted to say yes, wanted the distraction, the company, but she was also exhausted, and the thought of putting on a brave face, of pretending she was okay, felt like too much effort. Maybe tomorrow? I think I'm going to take a nap. Okay, but call me if you need anything. I mean it. Even if it's 3 a.m. and you're craving pickles dipped in chocolate. I'm there. Seo-yoon laughed softly. I promise. She set the phone down and leaned back against the couch, closing her eyes. Just for a moment. Just to rest. But she couldn't rest. Because every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, Min-jae, standing in that courtroom, his face cold and hard, his voice cutting through her like a knife. I have reason to believe the children she's carrying are not mine. She remembered the way everyone had looked at her, the judge, the lawyers, the people in the gallery, like she was a liar, a cheater, a woman who had destroyed her own marriage, and Min-jae had just stood there, letting them believe it, letting them tear her apart. She'd lost everything that day, her dignity, her reputation, her sense of self. And then, 3 weeks ago, he'd come to the hospital and told her the truth, that it had all been a lie, a manipulation, that his father and Hyejin had destroyed their marriage from the inside. And Seo Yoon didn't know what to do with that information. Because yes, Min-jae had been manipulated, but he'd also chosen to believe the worst about her. He'd chosen to throw her out, to accuse her publicly, to look at her with such hatred that she'd wanted to die. No one had forced him to do that. And now he wanted forgiveness, redemption, a second chance, a second. But Seo Yoon didn't know if she had it in her to give him any of those things, because the damage was done, the trust was gone. And even if she could forgive him, even if she could somehow find a way to move past the pain, she wasn't sure she could ever look at him the same way again. Her phone buzzed again. She opened her eyes, expecting another message from Jiwoo. But it wasn't Jiwoo. It was an unknown number. "Have you seen the news?" Seo Yoon frowned. She'd been avoiding the news for weeks, avoiding anything connected to Min-jae's world. She didn't want to know about territory disputes or power struggles or which gang was at war with which. She just wanted peace. But something about the message made her uneasy. She opened her browser, typing Kang Min-jae into the search bar. The headlines loaded, and her heart stopped. Kang Min-jae hospitalized after assassination attempt. Rival gang claims responsibility. Mafia boss fighting for life after multiple gunshot wounds. Power vacuum in Seoul's underworld as Kang organization leader clings to life. Seo Yoon's hands shook as she clicked the first article. Seoul, Kang Min-jae, 32, head of the notorious Kang crime organization, was rushed to Seoul National University Hospital late Wednesday evening after an apparent assassination attempt outside his compound in Gangnam. Witnesses report hearing multiple gunshots around 11 p.m. Min-jae sustained at least 3 gunshot wounds, one to the shoulder, one to the chest, and one to the abdomen. He was conscious when paramedics arrived, but lost significant blood en route to the hospital. His current condition is unknown, though sources close to the family describe it as critical. The rival park organization has claimed responsibility for the attack, releasing a statement calling it retaliation for recent territorial encroachments and disrespect shown to park leadership. This comes just weeks after Min-jae orchestrated a hostile takeover of his father's network, effectively exiling Kang Tae-sung and consolidating power within the organization. Authorities have increased security around the hospital, fearing further violence. Seo Yoon couldn't read anymore. Her vision blurred. Her chest tightened. She couldn't breathe. No. She stood abruptly, ignoring the wave of dizziness that washed over her. Min-jae was in the hospital. He'd been shot, multiple times. He could be dying. And she was sitting here, folding baby clothes, pretending she didn't care. But she did care. God help her, she still cared. She hated him. She was furious with him. She would never forgive him for what he'd done to her. But she didn't want him dead. She didn't want her children to grow up without a father, even if that father was a monster who destroyed their mother. Seo Yoon grabbed her keys, her purse, her coat. She had to go, had to see him, had to know if he was alive. She pulled the door open, and a sharp, searing pain tore through her abdomen. Seo Yoon gasped, doubling over, gripping the doorframe for support. No, not now. Please, not now. She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling it harden beneath her palm. A contraction, a real one. Not the Braxton Hicks contraction she'd been having for weeks. This was different. Stronger, more intense. She tried to breathe through it, the way Dr. Han had taught her. But then another contraction hit, harder this time. And another, and another. They were coming too fast, too close together. Seo Yoon stumbled back into the apartment, reaching for her phone. And then she felt it. A warm rush of liquid running down her legs. She looked down. Her water had broken. No, it was too early. 7 months, 32 weeks. The babies weren't ready. She wasn't ready. Panic surged through her. She fumbled for her phone, hands shaking so badly she could barely unlock it. She dialed Jiwoo. Jiwoo! Her voice was a gasp, strangled with pain and fear. I need help. The babies, they're coming. What? Seo Yoon, where are you? Home. My water broke. The contractions. They're too fast. I can't. I'm calling an ambulance. Stay on the line with me. Don't hang up. Okay. Seo Yoon sank to the floor, her back against the wall, clutching her belly. Okay. Another contraction ripped through her. She screamed. Seo Yoon! Jiwoo's voice was frantic. Breathe. Just breathe. The ambulance is on its way. They'll be there in 5 minutes. Can you hold on? I don't know. Tears streamed down Seo Yoon's face. Ji-woo, I'm so scared. It's too early. What if something's wrong? What if the babies... They're going to be fine, Ji-woo said firmly. You're going to be fine. Just keep breathing. Seo-yoon closed her eyes, pressing her hands against her belly. Please, she whispered to her babies. Please hold on. Please be okay. I need you to be okay. The ambulance arrived 8 minutes later. Paramedics rushed into the apartment, assessing her quickly. How far along are you? One of them asked. 7 months, Seo-yoon gasped. 32 weeks. Twins? Yes. The paramedic exchanged a glance with his partner. We need to get her to the hospital now. They lifted her onto a stretcher, moving quickly. Seo-yoon barely registered the elevator ride. The flashing lights of the ambulance, the sirens blaring as they sped through the streets. All she could focus on was the pain, the fear, the overwhelming, crushing terror that she was going to lose her babies. They arrived at Seoul National University Hospital, the same hospital where Min-jae was. Seo-yoon's mind barely registered the coincidence. She was rushed through the emergency entrance, paramedics shouting updates to the nurses. 32 weeks, twin pregnancy, premature labor, water broke approximately 20 minutes ago. Dr. Han appeared, his face grim but calm. He'd been her doctor throughout this entire nightmare. He knew her history, knew what she'd been through. Seo-yoon, he said, gripping her hand. I need you to stay calm. Can you do that? Are my babies going to be okay? She sobbed. We're going to do everything we can, Dr. Han said. But we need to deliver them now. They're in distress. We can't wait. It's too early. I know. But if we don't deliver now, we could lose them. Do you understand? Seo-yoon nodded, tears streaming down her face. I need you to trust me, Dr. Han said. Can you do that? Yes. Good. He looked at the nurses. Prep OR2. Emergency C-section. Now. They wheeled her down the hallway at breakneck speed. Seo-yoon stared up at the ceiling lights flashing past, her mind spinning. This is happening. This is really happening. My babies are coming. Too soon. Too small. Please, God, please let them be okay. They reached the operating room. Nurses swarmed around her, prepping her for surgery. Someone inserted an IV. Someone else placed a blood pressure cuff on her arm. Dr. Han was explaining the procedure, but Seo-yoon couldn't focus on his words. All she could hear was the pounding of her own heartbeat. And then, shouting in the hallway. Where is she? Where's Seo-yoon? Seo-yoon's entire body went rigid. That voice. Min-jae. Sir, you can't be here. You're injured. I don't care. Where is she? Sir, please, you need to go back to your room. Get out of my way. The doors to the OR burst open. And there he was. Min-jae. His left arm was in a sling. Thick bandages covered his chest and shoulder, visible through his open hospital gown. His face was deathly pale, his eyes shadowed with pain and exhaustion. But he was alive. He was standing. And he was looking at her with such raw, desperate fear that Seo-yoon's breath caught. Min-jae, she whispered. He pushed past 2 nurses who tried to restrain him, stumbling slightly but refusing to stop. I'm here, he said, his voice hoarse and cracking. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Sir, you absolutely cannot be in here, Dr. Han began. Like hell I can't. Min-jae grabbed Seo-yoon's hand, holding it so tightly it almost hurt. These are my children. This is my wife. I'm staying. Ex-wife, Seo-yoon said automatically, even through her tears. Bullshit, Min-jae said. The divorce isn't finalized. You're still my wife, and I'm not leaving you. Dr. Han looked between them, clearly torn. Then he sighed. Fine, but stay out of the way. If you pass out or interfere, I will have you dragged out. Understood? Min-jae nodded. Understood. He pulled a chair close to the operating table, still holding Seo-yoon's hand. She should have told him to leave, should have screamed at him to get out, but she didn't. Because despite everything, despite the pain, the betrayal, the months of agony, she needed him here. She was terrified, and he was the only person who understood what was at stake. I'm scared, she whispered, her voice breaking. I know, Min-jae said, squeezing her hand. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. But you're the strongest person I've ever known. You can do this. What if something goes wrong? What if the babies? They're going to be fine, Min-jae said firmly. They're fighters, just like their mother. Seo-yoon wanted to believe him. But as the anesthesiologist administered the epidural and the surgical team began prepping her abdomen, she felt the fear tightening around her chest like a vice. Talk to me, she said suddenly. Please. Just talk to me. Min-jae leaned closer. What do you want me to talk about? Anything. I don't care. Just, I need to hear your voice. Min-jae swallowed hard. Okay. He paused, clearly trying to think of something. Anything that might distract her. Do you remember? He began softly. The first time we met? Seo-yoon closed her eyes. The bookstore. The bookstore, Min-jae echoed. I was there picking up a book for my father. Some pretentious thing about military strategy. And you were sitting in the corner reading to a group of kids. Despite everything, Seo-yoon smiled faintly. You thought I worked there. I did. And I asked you where the business section was. And you looked at me like I was the biggest idiot you'd ever seen. You were wearing a $3,000 suit in a children's bookstore, Seo-yoon murmured. You looked ridiculous. I looked intimidating, Min-jae corrected. But you weren't intimidated. You just rolled your eyes and told me to use Google. And you asked me out. Right there, in front of all those kids, who, by the way, laughed at me. Because you were so awkward, Seo-yoon said, her voice trembling with a mix of tears and laughter. You said, would you like to have coffee with me? Like you were negotiating a business deal. I was nervous, Min-jae admitted. You were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. And you were so real. So different from everyone else in my world. Seo-yoon's smile faded. And then you destroyed me. Min-jae's face crumpled. I know. And I will never forgive myself for that. Never. Dr. Han's voice cut through the moment. We're ready to begin. Seo-yoon, you're going to feel some pressure, but no pain. If you feel anything sharp, tell me immediately. Seo-yoon nodded, gripping Min-jae's hand tighter. The surgery began. Seo-yoon couldn't see what was happening behind the surgical drape. She could only feel the strange tugging sensation as Dr. Han worked. Min-jae kept talking, his voice low and steady, anchoring her. After that first date, he continued, I knew you were going to change my life. I just didn't know how much. Min-jae, I was so stupid, he said, his voice thick with emotion. So arrogant. I thought I could have you and my world. I thought I could keep you safe from all the darkness.
If you stayed until the end, it's because this story stayed with you. What you heard here is just a fragment. The full experience lives in 30 complete audio stories, carefully told with every emotion, every secret, and every moment that couldn't be shared on YouTube. There are no ads, no interruptions, and you can listen anytime, anywhere, in total privacy. Scan the QR code on your screen now, or tap the link in the pinned comment, and discover what was never said.
But I was the darkness. I was the thing you needed protection from. Stop, Seo-yoon whispered. I can't. I need you to know. We have baby A, Dr. Han announced. A nurse moved quickly, taking the tiny squirming infant, but there was no cry. Seo-yoon's heart stopped. Why isn't the baby crying? The medical team swarmed around the infant, working quickly. Come on, baby, one of the nurses murmured. Come on. Silence. Terrible, suffocating silence. Min-jae's hand tightened around Seo-yoon's. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And then, a weak, thin cry. Baby A was crying. Seo-yoon sobbed with relief. Baby A is stable, Dr. Han said. But we need to get baby B out now. Seo-yoon, stay with me. Okay, she gasped. Okay. More tugging, more pressure, and then, baby B is out. Another flurry of activity. This time, the cry came immediately. Loud, strong, furious. Baby B is a fighter, one of the nurses said, smiling. Seo-yoon laughed through her tears. Can I see them? Please, can I see them? The nurses brought both babies over, still attached to monitoring equipment. Two tiny, perfect faces, red and wrinkled and beautiful. You have a boy and a girl, Dr. Han said. Congratulations. Seo-yoon stared at her children, overwhelmed. A boy and a girl, her twins. Min-jae was crying openly now, staring at the babies with wonder. They're perfect, he whispered. They're perfect. But then Dr. Han's voice cut through the moment, sharp and urgent. Baby A's O2 levels are dropping. We need to get him to the NICU, now. The nurses whisked the baby boy away. Wait. Seo-yoon tried to sit up. What's wrong? What's happening? His lungs aren't fully developed, Doctor. Han explained quickly. He needs respiratory support. We'll do everything we can. Is he going to be okay? Seo-yoon's voice broke. Please, tell me he's going to be okay. Dr. Han met her eyes. I don't know. The next 72 hours are critical. And with that, they took her son away. Seo-yoon collapsed back onto the table, sobbing. Min-jae pressed his forehead against her hand, his shoulders shaking. He has to be okay, Seo-yoon whispered. He has to be. But no one could promise her that. No one could promise her anything. Baby A is fighting for his life in the NICU. Min-jae was shot 3 times. Who wanted him dead? Seo-yoon just gave birth, but the park organization knows where she is. The twins are targets now, and Min-jae is too weak to protect them. Will baby A survive? Can Min-jae protect his family from his hospital bed? Will Seo-yoon forgive him before it's too late? Or will the mafia destroy them all? Episode 02 unlocks at 3,000 views. 20 comments were so close. Help us hit the goal. Comment: Babya. If you're praying for the twins, forgive him. If Min-jae deserves another chance, never. If Seo-yoon should leave forever, danger coming. If you think they're all in danger. Like this video if you're hooked. Subscribe so you don't miss episode 02. Share with someone who loves mafia romance.